Hello, you're watching A News. I'm Dilek Tuna. Here are the headlines. World leaders are reacting sharply after US President Donald Trump threatened to impose 30% tariffs on all imports from the European Union and Mexico. Protests erupted in Tel Aviv as calls grow for an end to the Gaza conflict. Heavy rains hit Spain's Catalonia, 2 people who were reportedly swept away by floodwaters. World leaders are reacting sharply after US President Donald Trump threatened to impose 30% tariffs on all imports from the European Union and Mexico, starting August 1st. From Paris to Berlin to Mexico City, concerns are growing over a potential global trade war.
Trump's latest threat to slap 30% duties on all European and Mexican imports has triggered fierce backlash from allies who say the move would harm businesses, workers and consumers on both sides of the Atlantic. French President Emmanuel Macron called on Brussels to hit back, fast urging use of the anti-coercion instrument, which gives the EU sweeping power to retaliate against economic pressure. It is more than ever up to the Commission to assert the Union's determination to defend European interests resolutely, he wrote it on X. Germany's economy minister, Katharina Reiche, warned the tariffs would hit both sides. Ursula von der Leyen said the 30% tariffs would disrupt transatlantic supply chains, hurting businesses, consumers and patients. She emphasised the EU still hopes for a deal, but is ready to defend its interests. EU leaders rallied behind the Commission. European Council President Antonio Costa called tariffs taxes that fuel inflation. Dutch PM Dick Schoof said the move was not the way forward, and Swedish PM Ulf Kristersson warned that everyone loses in a trade war. Trump made the threat official on Friday in letters to von der Leyen and Claudia Sheinbaum. He accuses the EU and Mexico of taking advantage of America and says new tariffs are coming August 1st unless a new deal is reached. In Mexico, President Claudia Sheinbaum confirmed receiving the letter and said talks with the US will continue next week. She stressed the goal is to strengthen regional cooperation.
Very early today, a letter signed by President Trump was released stating that a 30% tariff will be imposed on all goods exported from Mexico to the USA. We believe that we will reach an agreement with the USA and that we will, of course, achieve better conditions.
Mexico also got 30% threat today. So it basically means that all our efforts to try to find a deal seemingly has meant nothing for Trump.
But beyond politics, the announcement is already causing anxiety among everyday Mexicans. Many worry that new tariffs could sharply raise the cost of food, fuel and basic goods, further straining household budgets.
It's worrying. If the tariffs happen, prices will go up. We're already struggling, and now everything could become more expensive. The poor will suffer the most.
If it continues like this, there will come a time when it will eventually affect the cost of living we have. Prices of products will increase for many things.
With less than 3 weeks until the deadline, both the EU and Mexico are pushing for last-minute talks. Experts say unless a deal is reached, Trump's tariffs could trigger a major trade conflict with ripple effects across global markets.
Protests erupted in Tel Aviv as calls grow for an end to the Gaza conflict. Israeli demonstrators gathered in Tel Aviv, urging the government to reach a deal to end the war in Gaza and secure the release of hostages. The protests come as ceasefire talks in Doha face hurdles, with disagreements over Israeli troop withdrawals. Negotiations over a US-backed 60-day truce are expected to continue. Hopes for a Gaza ceasefire are rapidly fading as talks between Israel and Hamas in Qatar appear close to collapse. Negotiations have stalled, with Palestinian officials accusing Israel of using Prime Minister Netanyahu's US visit to delay progress. They claim the Israeli delegation in Doha lacked authority to make meaningful decisions on key issues like troop withdrawal and aid delivery. Netanyahu, however, maintained a positive tone before leaving Washington, saying a deal could be finalised within days.
You have a choice. Where do you live?
The World Food Programme is sounding the alarm over an unfolding humanitarian crisis in Gaza. With food stocks ready but blocked at the border, aid officials say access, not supply, is the critical challenge. Their message is clear. Without a ceasefire, the situation could spiral out of control.
The World Food Programme says Gaza is on the brink of mass famine, with 1 in 3 people going days without eating. Briefing reporters in New York, Deputy Executive Director Carl Scow painted a dire picture following his recent visit to the Strip. According to him, over 500,000 people already facing starvation. Malnutrition, he warned, is surging rapidly.
We had a formal IPC report a few weeks ago already, pointing to the entire population being acutely food insecure and 500,000 people in starvation. And since then, certainly, it hasn't gotten better. If anything, it's much worse now. Malnutrition is surging. You might have seen the numbers from UNICEF, 90,000 children now in urgent need of treatment for malnutrition.
Scow described a population in constant flight, with families forced to relocate 20 to 30 times, carrying less each time and losing the ability to survive. He stressed that the World Food Programme has enough food at Gaza's borders to feed the entire population for 2 months, but that access remains severely limited. Scow detailed long delays at checkpoints, fuel shortages, damaged armoured vehicles, and broken communications, leaving teams stranded for hours.
The operating environment also for our teams is just impossible. Some 85% now of the territory, there is active military operations. Our teams get stuck in waiting for clearances and at checkpoints, often spending between 15 to 20 hours straight in their armed vehicles, trying to escort our convoys. There's not enough fuel. There is not enough spare parts to our vehicles. Most of the windows in our armored vehicles have been damaged, and we don't have basic communication. Radio antennas from our cars have been ripped off.
The World Food Programme official said WFP is in contact with Israeli authorities, and though some agreements have been reached, implementation is falling short. The agency is again urging for an immediate ceasefire and secure humanitarian access before the crisis escalates even further.
Iran says it will continue working with the UN's nuclear watchdog, but under tighter restrictions. The country's foreign minister says inspections at nuclear sites pose both security and safety concerns. Iran's Foreign Minister Abbas Araghchi says cooperation with the International Atomic Energy Agency will continue, but under new conditions. A recently passed law now requires any future inspections to be cleared by Iran's top security body. Araghchi cited safety concerns for IAEA inspectors, pointing to radioactive risks and unexploded munitions at damaged nuclear sites. US President Trump says a new agreement is in place between the US, NATO and Ukraine over the supply of American weapons. Speaking to NBC News, he claimed NATO will now cover the full cost of US arms, which will then be routed to Ukraine through the alliance. He said the deal was finalised at the NATO summit in the Netherlands this June. In January, NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte had proposed that European allies purchase US weapons for Ukraine, a concept that now appears to be moving forward. Russia has launched a fresh wave of drone and missile strikes across Ukraine on Saturday, this time targeting the country's western regions, far from the front lines. At least 2 people have been killed in Chernivtsi, near the Romanian border, and dozens of buildings have been damaged in Lviv.
The city of Lviv is among the hardest hit, with explosions reported there and in several other regions, according to Ukraine's deputy foreign minister. In Lviv, near the border with Poland, 46 homes, a university building, the city's courts, and about 20 small and medium-sized businesses were damaged in the attack, the city's mayor said.
In the bomb shelter, we could hear explosions and drones flying above us, and we saw the destructions on our street. We thought it was somewhere near our street. Then we got a phone call from neighbors who wanted to check on us. And when we returned, we saw the destructions.
In the eastern city of Kharkiv, Russian missiles struck a defunct enterprise and several warehouses, according to the mayor.
Windows and doors were blown out, curtains fell, TV set was thrown through the air. The apartment is covered in glass shards. It is horrible. I want to clean the apartment. My brother came. We will clean everything together. But I do not know how I will sleep during the night. There is no window.
With little sign of respite, Western Ukraine, once seen as a safer region, is now increasingly under fire.
Severe weather has once again gripped Spain. Torrential rain has caused flooding across Catalonia, prompting military intervention in critical areas. Firefighters in the northwestern region were searching for 2 people, were reportedly swept away by floodwaters.
Torrential rain in Spain's Catalonia region has led to widespread flooding, with roads and plains submerged under water. The Spanish Meteorological Agency issued several red alerts warning of heavy rainfall, flash flooding and hailstorms in various parts of the country. Following these warnings, the Catalonia Fire Department announced via social media that it had received over 200 emergency calls. Helicopters were deployed to assist with search and rescue operations across affected areas. One of the worst-hit locations was the town of Tarazona, near Saragossa. Floodwaters filled underpasses, prompting the Spanish military emergency unit to intervene. Troops were deployed to pump water from flooded areas and secure key infrastructure. The torrential rainfall has also disrupted transport services in and around Barcelona. In October 2024, torrential rains and catastrophic flooding in eastern Valencia claimed the lives of 225 people, marking the deadliest weather disaster Spain has experienced in decades. The storm, similar to the one currently impacting the country, was triggered by a meteorological phenomenon known in Spain as a cold drop, or DANA, isolated depression at high levels. This occurs when a mass of cold air descends over the warmer waters of the Mediterranean Sea, creating intense and often deadly weather conditions.
Investigators under India's Civil Aviation Ministry have released a preliminary report which reveals cockpit confusion about the plane's fuel switch moments before the fatal Air India crash last month.
A preliminary report by Indian aviation accident investigators reveals cockpit confusion moments before the fatal Air India crash that killed 260 people in Ahmedabad last month. The report indicates that the plane's engine fuel switch is shifted from run to cut-off within seconds of each other, starving both engines of fuel. The agency leading the probe, which operates under India's Civil Aviation Ministry, is investigating what has become the world's deadliest aviation disaster in a decade. Investigators are focusing on the movement of the engine fuel control switches, based on analysis of the Boeing 787's flight and voice data recorders, as well as a simulation by Boeing of the aircraft's final moments. In the moments before the crash, one pilot can be heard on the cockpit voice recorder asking the other why he had cut off the fuel. The second pilot responded that he had not done so, according to the report. CCTV footage shows that almost immediately after takeoff, a backup power source known as a ram air turbine deployed, an indication that the engines had lost power. The report suggests neither Boeing nor engine maker GE bear responsibility for the crash. Air India acknowledged the findings in a statement, saying it is cooperating fully with Indian authorities, but declined to comment further.
Three people, including a 3.5-month-old baby, died after a fire broke out in a 26-storey building in Ankara's Çankaya district. The fire started on the 4th floor and quickly spread to upper levels. Emergency crews evacuated the building. The fire was brought under control after 4 hours, but cooling efforts are still ongoing. According to officials, 39 people were affected by smoke. 7 of them were firefighters. 26 were treated at the scene, while 20 others were taken to nearby hospitals. 1 person remains in critical condition. The cause of the fire is under investigation. The transitional president of Syria, Ahmed al-Shara, concluded a visit to Azerbaijan. The visit highlights the importance of bilateral ties between the two countries, which stretch back decades. So what are the prospects for cooperation between Baku and Damascus?
Azerbaijan is strengthening ties with Syria as part of its broader Middle East strategy. The two countries are exploring new avenues of cooperation, including post-war reconstruction, energy exports, and infrastructure development. The president of Azerbaijan and Syria's transitional president last met during a forum in Antalya. Azerbaijan has been one of the countries to openly support Syria's sovereignty and territorial integrity. Under President Ilham Aliyev's directive, a high-level Azerbaijani delegation, led by Deputy Prime Minister Samir Sharifov and officials from the Foreign Ministry, visited Syria to assess how Azerbaijan could assist in its rebuilding efforts. Azerbaijan, having gained unique reconstruction experience after the Second Karabakh War, sees potential in sharing that expertise with Syria. But beyond reconstruction, energy cooperation is emerging as a major pillar in Azerbaijan-Syria relations. Talks are underway to export 1 billion cubic meters of Azerbaijani natural gas to Syria via Turkey. If the pipeline connecting Syria and Jordan is also rebuilt, Azerbaijani gas could reach markets as far as Egypt, enhancing Baku's role as a regional energy provider. Azerbaijan currently exports gas to 12 countries, mainly in Europe. The addition of Syria would bring that number to 13 and mark a significant entry into the Arab Middle East energy market. Meanwhile, electricity is another emerging area. Azerbaijan also sees growing potential to export electricity to Middle Eastern countries. Historically, relations between Azerbaijan and Syria were friendly, with the exception of the latter years of the Assad rule. Today, both sides appear ready to reset and reimagine their ties, guided by mutual interests and new strategic realities. This developing partnership reflects not only Azerbaijan's evolving foreign policy, but also its ambition to become a key player in Middle Eastern energy and reconstruction efforts.
Earlier, we had a chance to discuss the visit of President al-Shara with Onur Erim, president of Dragamon Strategies. Here's what he had to say.
And of course, Azerbaijan being one of the greatest nations in the region and one of the most powerful nations in the region, it is imperative that the leader of today, the Syria, Mr. President al-Shara, is actually trying to make more and more tighter relationship with not just the very near neighbors, but also the regional neighbors. Of course, Azerbaijan is probably should have been and seems to be now his first stop in regional talks, and it's important that Syria and al-Shara receives the support, and not just economically but also politically the support of Azerbaijan as well. This is utmost importance for regional cooperation.
Azerbaijan's press council is pushing back against claims from the Russian Union of Journalists, calling for greater scrutiny of how media is used in international influence campaigns. The council argues this case goes beyond journalism and highlights broader concerns over national security and information integrity.
In a strongly worded appeal to the international community, the Press Council of the Republic of Azerbaijan has condemned what it describes as Russia's increasing weaponization of mass media to destabilize sovereign nations. The statement responds directly to an open letter from the Russian Union of Journalists, which protested the arrest of Sputnik Azerbaijan's senior staff. The council says the Russian letter misrepresents facts to sway global opinion. It states that the activities of Sputnik Azerbaijan's head, Igor Kartavik, and editor-in-chief Yevgeny Belousov were unrelated to journalism, alleging ties to Russia's Federal Security Service, FSB. The detentions, it adds, were lawful and based on national security concerns. To provide further context, the appeal highlights the background of Sputnik's former head in Azerbaijan, Vitaly Denisov, a known career officer of Russian intelligence. Denisov, who also operated Sputnik offices in South Ossetia and Moldova, is alleged to have led disinformation and propaganda campaigns that advanced Kremlin interests under the cover of journalism. His activities led to his expulsion from both Azerbaijan and Moldova. The Council cites reports from bodies like the Council of Europe and EUV's Disinfo, describing Sputnik as a key part of Russia's disinformation strategy. It notes that Sputnik has already been banned or blocked in 32 countries, including all 27 EU members, as well as Ukraine, the UK, Switzerland, Canada, and Australia. The appeal criticizes the Russian Union of Journalists for ignoring press repression at home while defending individuals accused of espionage abroad. The statement underscores that over 50 journalists have been killed in Russia since 1992, many under suspicious circumstances, and at least 26 have been detained between 2019 and 2024. Reports by international human rights organizations regularly highlight a 60 to 70% decline in independent journalism in Russia over recent years, with the environment for free expression worsening sharply since the beginning of the war in Ukraine. High-profile murders of journalists such as Yuri Shchekochikhin, Anna Politkovskaya, Pavel Sheremet, and Paul Klebnikov remain unsolved, often due to their political sensitivity. Meanwhile, media censorship in Russia has intensified, and journalists expressing dissent are routinely silenced or arrested. In conclusion, the Azerbaijani Press Council calls on international journalism and human rights organizations to recognize and reject the manipulation of media for political ends. They urge these bodies to scrutinize the ties between institutions like the Russian Union of Journalists and state intelligence services, and to stand firmly against the use of journalism as a weapon in hybrid warfare.
Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan says the country has turned a sorrowful page in its history following the disarmament of PKK fighters. He called the moment a new day for the nation. But on the streets of Istanbul, there's both hope and skepticism.
Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan says that a new era has begun as the Kurdistan Workers' Party, also known as the PKK, started the process to disarm after a 4-decade armed conflict that killed more than 40,000 people.
The scourge of terror finally started the process of its ending. Turkey has started to close a long, sorrowful, tearful page.
At a party event in Ankara, Erdogan welcomed the handover of weapons by 30 PKK fighters in northern Iraq. He called it a turning point in the country's decade-long battle against the outlawed group.
Let's not forget, today is a new day. A new page is opened in history today.
But on the streets of Istanbul, views were mixed. Some welcomed the moment.
It is very good news. Since the 80s, all the mothers had been crying. After today, all we want is unity and friendship. With the help of the God, in Turkey, we will be all united.
But others expressed deep mistrust.
I'm not sure whether there is anything to be hopeful for. They may be coming together to release the weapons, but somewhere else they might be gathering again. I do not trust them at all.
The PKK says it is voluntarily destroying its weapons.
For the success of the practice of the peace and democratic society process, and as a step of goodwill and determination, we are destroying our weapons with free will.
The process is expected to take several months, and while many hope it signals the end of the conflict, few are under any illusion that the path ahead will be easy.
Amid growing regional engagement, Afghanistan is strengthening its economic partnerships. A major development unfolded in Kabul, where senior officials from Afghanistan and Kazakhstan signed a landmark investment deal. Our Afghanistan correspondent Tamim Bahis has more details in Kabul.
At the presidential palace in Kabul, Mullah Abdul Ghani brother, the Deputy Prime Minister for Economic Affairs, welcomed Kazakhstan's Deputy Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Murad Notlev for high-level talks aimed at deepening economic cooperation between the two countries. The centerpiece of the discussions was a new investment agreement worth $500 million for the construction of the Herat-Turgundi railway line. Both leaders signed the deal, marking a significant step in regional connectivity. Brother emphasized Afghanistan's potential as a key transit corridor for Kazakh energy exports to South Asia. He called for stronger ties in trade, railways, and banking, areas where both sides expressed readiness to collaborate. According to the Afghan side, Kazakhstan also expressed interest in importing electricity, facilitating agricultural exports, and allowing Afghan banks to open accounts in Kazakh institutions. Separately, Kazakhstan's foreign minister also met with the acting foreign minister Amir Khan Muttaqi. The two discussed the broader scope of bilateral ties, including political cooperation, regional transit projects, and academic exchanges. Both meetings underscored growing momentum in Afghanistan's regional diplomacy, with tangible outcomes like the Herat-Turgundi railway project now in motion. As cooperation expands, Afghanistan positions itself as a strategic economic bridge in the heart of Asia. This is Tamim Bahis in Kabul for A News.
A group of global explorers from the Most Travelled People Club is on a rare journey through Azerbaijan's liberated regions. From Kalbajar to Lachin, they're witnessing the pace of post-conflict recovery and sharing that story with the world.
We are now in Kalbajar, a breathtaking region nestled deep in the mountains of eastern Zangezur. Today marks a special moment in a truly unique journey. This visit is a part of an expedition organized by the world's famous MTP, the Most Travelled People Club. The group includes 30 travelers from 15 countries.
Their goal is to explore places that are often off the radar and to understand the stories that maps don't tell. Over the past 3 years, MTP members have visited Karabakh and eastern Zangezur more than a dozen times. The group toured Kalbajar's newly restored city centre, where they saw freshly paved roads, modern government offices and brand new residential buildings.
But what's really heartening to see now is all the rebuilding and the fantastic speed and quality of the rebuilding. We've been, I think, to 3 new towns now and seeing the rapidness of all the new housing that's come up, new retail and public facilities. And
one of the most exciting developments is the revival of Istisu, a once famous Soviet-era spa resort, now being rebuilt as a major wellness destination with modern infrastructure.
It's a beautiful part of the world. I mean, it's spectacular. It's been amazing seeing all the different towns, the rebuilding of all the different cities and how developed they've gotten so quickly. And then the mountains are out of this world, like absolutely stunning. And it's a part of the world I didn't know much about before this trip, and somewhere that I think everyone should visit.
Well, I mean, even to just get the materials to this location, I imagine, is difficult. So it's really quite impressive, and even seeing them building the roads there, it's amazing. And I think about things being repaired back home, and it takes years for them to fix a pothole, and they're building roads over here.
After Kalbajar, the expedition continued southwest, toward another vital corner of eastern Zangezur, Lachin. Known for its strategic location and mountainous beauty, Lachin has also become a showcase of Azerbaijan's latest reconstruction achievements.
The group just arrived in Lachin to see some of the most recent reconstruction efforts, including new residential areas, public buildings, modern roads and utility infrastructure. One of the highlights was the visit to Lachin Panoramic Viewpoint, or Lachin Seyrangahı, a newly developed space that offers breathtaking views and symbolizing a fresh chapter for the region.
I think sixth time that I visited, and just more and more rebuilding and construction. For example, the road to Kalbajar today was really beautiful, and a couple of years ago it was just dirt road. And the new resort is at Itsusu. They're building a whole new resort above the hot springs, so that was pretty cool to see. This last year and this year are the first times we can just stop, relax in Lachin, have a nice view out of the countryside, and so this is real progress. I think that 5 years ago I would never have expected that so much could be done.
For most of them, this is their first time visiting Azerbaijan's liberated regions, and although many have explored other post-conflict zones globally, they say the pace and scope of reconstruction in Lachin is remarkable.
I'm very impressed, like how many constructions are going on and how much the country is developing, and I've been quite surprised about all what I've seen until now.
It's a good idea to visit, not only just to see the country itself, but see what happened in the past, and just to get an idea what is happening now, and something that to look forward to, the future of this country.
As the journey comes to an end, one thing is clear: this is more than a travel itinerary, and soon their impressions, captured through photos, videos and stories, will reach audiences across the world, offering a glimpse beyond borders and assumptions. For many, this journey is more than travel. It's a rare opportunity to witness how a region rebuilds and how Azerbaijan shares that story with the world.
And that's all we have for now from Baku. Stay tuned to A News for more updates.